What do you have the most fun doing that you get feedback from like friends and family that you're really good at?
Welcome to this episode of Think Like a Producer, Season 2. We are kicking it off with your uniqueness, who you are as a person, who you are as a creator, of course, who you are as a producer. I think this is something that we wanted to start off with everyone because there's so many kinds of shows. There are so many kinds of ways to tell your story, to express whether you're educating, whether you're entertaining, informing, all the different kinds of shows that you want to choose. What's really going to make you stand out? And we've talked about it a little bit on season 1, and we continue to emphasize as much as we can that you are what makes your show unique. But playing to your strengths is what's really going to, what we think, take you further. So what does that mean? On a video side, there are opportunities for you to record long, record short, do interviews, do just literally YouTube shorts, 60-second vertical videos that are super new to YouTube shorts and actually are doing really well. On our YouTube channel, if you're watching this right now, you'll see that a short that we put out in July has more views than any video that we have, almost 1,000 views. We're still new on our YouTube platform, and it's just 60 seconds of content. But I'm realizing as I'm posting more videos, I'm playing with shorts, I'm playing with our longer content, 15 to 30 minutes. Shorts are really picking up and doing well. I'm still going to post both, but it's been nice to see what other people, what our audience is responding to, what videos are drawing subscribers in. So if you've been a little bit nervous about starting a YouTube channel, you're not really sure, like, what do I say? How do I hold the camera? Where should the light go? All these details can be overwhelming, or it can just be fun to experiment with. It's kind of similar, I would say, to being on Instagram Live or Instagram Stories. You can just start to post and see what people respond to. Start to play with your titles, play with your description. And this can actually be before you start your formal podcast or formal show. What I like is that I actually have a separate YouTube channel that no one really sees, that maybe you guys will kind of go down and explore a little bit. But it's all just fun clips of me talking about my life and what I do, but it's allowed me to harp in on my own creativity and what I like in my video style. And we were choosing, well, it was mostly me, but when we were choosing how our YouTube channel was going to look, coming up with those nice slides that come up on the side to really help you guys understand what we're talking about, to make it a little bit more educational, to make it feel like, we're teaching you as opposed to just having a show where we go back and forth and talk about whatever topics pop up in the top of our head. We really wanted to make the show stand out as educational and supportive. And we talked about this before. We bond the emotional intelligence in addition to the technical side of what we do. So I just want to emphasize that there's no right answer to your style, but just starting with the things that are easy for you. So a quick example, then I'm gonna pass it off to Christine, but a quick example of this can be just the way you record your show. If you decide to have it handheld and talk right to the camera, more vlog style, a little less formal, a little less, lighting setup. When you see some other YouTubers who are more on the tech side, who have obviously a painted wall, a studio type setup, you can tell that everything was very chosen and meticulous, particularly for the shoot. You can choose either or, but allow yourself to grow with your show, to grow with your channel, to grow with your content. Don't let any of the technical details stop you from just playing around so that you can figure out what really excites you the most, what style brings you the most joy. And like we said, of course, who's viewing it the most and adding more comments and likes because of what you're putting out. So like I said, this is just the beginning. This is just episode 1. We're just reintroducing you to honing in on your uniqueness and your style. And for video, I know that some people who are just starting to get on camera, it can feel a little overwhelming, but hopefully you're just encouraged to play around and see what really works well for you. Christine, I'd love to hear your take on this because truthfully, you guys know I give Christine all the credit. She's like my own personal coach when it comes to like uniqueness and style and just having fun with it. So I'd love for you to just tell everyone your take on this too.
Well, I love what you shared, especially because I know that tons of people are trying to figure out how to use video to share their expertise, attract their dream audience, teach great content, and it can be very overwhelming. So you bring so much value, especially to this conversation about creating media that attracts your dream audience. This is the whole theme of season 2. And we're really going to focus in on micropreneurs, brands, business owners, anyone who wants to use the power of podcasting and video to attract their ideal customers, their dream audience, to really show people, this is what I'm really good at. I would love to work with you if this is vibing with you. That's what our whole season's going to focus on. We're really going to kind of take you behind the scenes of how we coach our private clients and give you the tools to really monetize and make a sustainable marketing effort from your podcast or your YouTube channel or whatever beautiful hybrid you are doing. So with that said, one of my favorite things to talk to clients about right at the beginning of when we begin, right at the beginning of when we start to work together on their show, we often have these conversations before their show launches. Or oftentimes they'll come to me because they've hit a wall and they've stopped doing their show and they want to relaunch it and they want to actually do it in a way that feels sustainable to them. So the conversation I have with people is, what about this particular kind of media, whether they're doing audio podcasting or video podcasting, together, what do you love about it? That's a huge thing that you need to ask yourself. The problem I see people running into often, especially entrepreneurs who are in the online space or have spent a lot of time looking at what other people do, is that they'll be like, oh, well, so-and-so does a certain kind of show this way and they're really successful, so I just need to do that. This is one of the biggest misses. So to state the obvious, Tiff and I are pretty well known in our space for having produced this big podcast school of greatness for years that has now become one of the most well-known podcasts in self-development and entrepreneurship. You wouldn't believe how many times people come to us separately and will be like, oh, I want to do just what Lewis did. I think it's so amazing. Just kind of rinse and repeat for me. And time and again, Tiff and I will be like, that's great. Let's talk about if that actually makes sense for you, what your goals are, what your bandwidth is, who your audience is, what your expertise is, what kind of return on investment you want to get out of this. These are actually the conversations we have, because once we start digging into this with our clients, we realize, oh, this type of show that you've seen someone like Lewis or Tim Ferriss or Gary Vaynerchuk or, Marie Forleo or Gabby Bernstein, fill in the blank with some bigwig, it would actually not be the best for you. 1, because of the amount of work and expense involved. But 2, because a lot of times people think, I'll just be a great interviewer. I'll just be a great teacher. I'll just be great at having conversations with random people. You know what? Most of us, that's not actually our strong suit. If you're lucky, it might be a natural gift of yours to host a conversation with someone you don't know very well. But for most people, that's actually not their zone of genius. And even the people who it is their zone of genius, they've probably worked pretty hard and trained for a while to get as good as they are. So when I say play to your strengths and kind of really hone in on your uniqueness, the conversation I'm having with a client is, what do you have the most fun doing that you get feedback from friends and family that you're really good at? So some people, that's going to be teaching content, right? When you're kind of listening or watching a great teacher, they just have it. So if you have that gift and you've trained it and developed it, and people give you great feedback when you teach workshops, teach on a webinar, whatever your area of teaching is, if consistently people are like, this was incredible, it was the best way I've ever learned this, well, let's take that into the podcast then. Why don't we have a show where you're teaching the thing you're really good at teaching? We don't need to bother with guests and interviews and all this nonsense. No, if your strength is being a master teacher, let's use this show to shine the light on that. And that will very naturally enroll people to want to come work with you, to want to come buy your workshops and your courses and the ways that they can learn more from you. See where I'm going with this? Okay, let me give you another example. Sometimes a client will come to me, and once we start digging into their strengths, will realize that what they're really good at is listening to someone else's story and kind of pulling the nuggets and the gems from it and having a really intimate, vulnerable conversation because they're really emotionally intelligent, they're empathetic, they understand. That's just a natural gift of theirs. So in that situation, it would make a lot of sense for them to have like a conversation style show. Maybe not even an interview. Interviews have been done a lot, and every once in a while you'll stumble across a great one, but like we said earlier, it's not most people's natural gift. A conversation is very different than an interview. So a conversation will probably always happen with someone you already know, you already have a relationship with. And instead of doing this whole backstory about their greatest hits and where they grew up and blah, 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 you can just start the episode introducing the topic and starting to have a really rich and juicy conversation. And then knowing that your strength is empathetically connecting with that person and bringing kind of these gems out of them that everyone listening is going to want to know. That can be an incredibly powerful kind of podcast that not everyone could host, but maybe you could because that's your strength. Now, obviously, we can go down the line. This is what we work with our clients on, right? When we do our initial kind of launch strategy sessions, we look at all the different options we've seen. We think about new ones. Sometimes it's a hybrid show where sometimes you're doing teaching and sometimes you're having a guest conversation and sometimes you're doing, kind of a round table or you have a guest host you bring in on the regular because you two work really well together. There's all sorts of ways you can mix and match. But the thing we really wanted to hone in on today's episode, and the reason we're starting the season with this specific conversation, is because it's so essential that if you want to create podcasts and videos that enroll your clients to come work with you after they watch and listen, we've got to make sure that the content you make plays to your strengths and reveals the unique magic you in your best element, right? The quickest road to burnout and a show that doesn't give you what you want is to try and copy someone else's zone of genius when it's not yours. We all know that, so we're just going to state it for the record. Okay, that's what I really wanted to share today. This is such an important conversation. We absolutely love doing these kind of strategy sessions with clients. So if you are interested in this, you are more than welcome to hit us up and see how we could work together. We have a link in the show notes that will put on every episode this season. It's just easy ways to contact us and work with us. So check it out if that's really speaking to you. But regardless, Tiff, what do we want people to know about season 2 and what they should do right now to get the most out of it?
Subscribe. Is that what you want me to say?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I already gave the call to action around working. So I didn't really prep you. I just threw it to you.
Subscribe. Every Thursday we'll be putting out a new episode, and really this season we spend a lot of time thinking about how we can support you with this season, so don't miss an episode. We're going in a very particular order so you can go from start to finish and really learn how to create media to build your unique audience. So subscribe and we will catch you on the next episode of Think Like a Producer.